Alright guys, it is finally that time where I can discuss my thoughts on the newest film in the Star Wars franchise, Rogue One, A Star Wars Story. This movie is directed by Gareth Edwards and stars a huge ensemble cast including Felicity Jones, Diego Luna, Alan Tudyk, and Donnie Yen. This movie tells the story of a group of rebels who are tasked on a dangerous, possibly suicidal mission to steal the plans of the Death Star. And along the way there's treachery, twists, flaws from another movie that actually are fixed, which I can't go in depth with right now. But there is a ton of things to talk about in this movie. But before I discuss all I want to about Rogue One in spoiler-free form, I'd like to briefly mention my history with Star Wars. When I was 7 years old, I watched the original Star Wars for the first time, and it was the movie that got me into the world of filmmaking. There's a big chance I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you guys right now had it not have been for Star Wars. It's that important to my life. I remember seeing it for the first time and just being blown away by everything. But it also made me question who wrote this, who directed it, who were the actors involved, how did they make it just so believable with all the space battles? And ever since that moment I became an avid Star Wars fan. I love the original trilogy, I even like Revenge of the Sith, I'm not a big fan of the first two prequels, and I enjoyed Force Awakens despite the fact that it was a rehash of A New Hope at times. So Star Wars truly is a part of my life, so genuinely, I'm going to be excited whenever they release a new Star Wars movie. And when I discovered that Rogue One, A Star Wars Story was going to be the new movie, I was totally pumped for it. I was excited as hell. It was my most anticipated movie of this entire year. So much was building up to it, and unfortunately, 2016 has been a rather very disappointing year for blockbusters. I really haven't seen one that has stuck with me or compelled me. I just really wasn't impressed with this year's blockbusters. They all were just fine and generic. However, I was also excited for Rogue One for a very specific reason. Because when I was a kid, I thought the concept that the rebels had the plans was interesting, but when you figure out that it was stolen, I always wondered ever since I was a kid, would they ever make a movie about how they got the plans? And here we have it. So my childhood question has been answered with this movie. I could not have been any more excited to see this movie, and now I've finally seen it, and the biggest question that I have to ask myself is, was it any good? Oh, yes, it was. I absolutely loved Rogue One. This is, in my opinion, the best Star Wars movie we've had since Return of the Jedi. I loved it that much. This is an intense, gritty, ballsy, realistic Star Wars movie that we have been waiting for years. I had such a great time watching this. I saw the film with two good friends of mine who both loved the film as well. It was such an awesome ride. So let me discuss my spoiler-free thoughts on this film because I will be doing a spoiler review coming this week. I'm very excited to bring you guys my in-depth thoughts on the movie, but let's talk spoiler-free details. I really liked Felicity Jones in the role of Jyn Erso. I think she is a very tough character who is not a Mary Sue. I appreciate that. I'll go more in depth later on, but I really liked her character. She was a very reserved person because of a lot of things that are developed through backstories. And I think the more we got to know about this character, the more compelling she became, but she was also very feisty. Personally, I think I liked her character more than Rey from Force Awakens because I feel like Jyn in this movie couldn't do everything perfectly like Rey could in Episode 7. I really like Diego Luna's character. I think that he had a really cool accent. I don't think I've ever seen him in a movie, and if I did, I must not have paid too much attention, but in this movie, his accent was really awesome, and I really liked his character. I like the fact that, no spoilers, his character did blur the line throughout the movie. K2SO, voiced by Alan Tudyk, was phenomenal. He's a robot that's reprogrammed to work for the Rebel Alliance who used to serve in the Empire. I thought that was cool because I never noticed the Imperial logo on him until I saw the actual film. I loved every single piece of dialogue he said because he was really the comic relief, but he was just a really awesome character. I appreciated all the screen time that Mads Mikkelsen was involved in. I think he is an extremely versatile and talented actor. I enjoyed his performance for the movie. He wasn't in it as much as I'd wanted him to, but I felt like for the screen time that he was involved, it was great. Even though I really loved K2SO, my favorite character of this movie was Donnie Yen as Chirrut. Every single time his character had a fight scene, it was directed and choreographed swiftly. He's actually a blind man with only a stick and the Force at his will. I am one with the Force, and the Force is with me. He says that a lot throughout the movie, but trust me, it is so powerful whenever he says it. I also like the villain of this movie, and I don't want to pronounce his name because I feel like I'm going to mispronounce it, but I know that he was also the actor from The Dark Knight Rises, and I think he did a good job in that movie. But I felt that in this movie, he did a pretty solid job, though at times I felt his character was kind of generic, and he kind of was developed to be a generic villain. Now I want to get into some more cons, because they do mix with some of the pros I have. I feel the first act of this movie was at times a little bit clunky. I feel that certain scenes could have moved a little bit faster where I could have said, alright, let's pick up the pace. The second act definitely picks up, which then leads to the best third act I've seen in a Star Wars movie since The Empire Strikes Back. I'm serious, guys. I loved the final 45 minutes of this movie. It contains one of the best space battles ever made. Now, this movie was able to accomplish something that no other Star Wars film was ever able to accomplish in my mind. The last act of this movie is a war film. It feels like all the classic war films you've seen, like Saving Private Ryan, for instance. It was absolutely spectacular. I have never seen a battle like that in a Star Wars film, and to see that for the first time in theaters was mesmerizing. I loved every single second of the third act of this film. It is by far the best third act of any movie I have seen so far this year. I was so blown away. I was just staring at the screen with a smile on my face. Now let me talk about the CGI, because that also was unfortunately a con throughout parts of this movie. They try to bring back Grand Moff Tarkin, and it's not really that big of a spoiler because his character doesn't really do much throughout the film, and we know that he's going to be in the original. But I was very disappointed with the CGI of his character. It looked fake. It did not look good at all. I felt it was interesting trying to bring him back, but I think more compelling CGI should have been used in that instance. There are a couple of noticeable CGI shots in the movie, but I felt most of them didn't really bother me until thinking about it afterward. It's just Tarkin with CGI, that didn't really work for me. And my third real complaint is that I don't think enough of the characters were developed as well. I don't want to ruin this experience for you guys, so I'm going to try my best to talk about it as spoiler-free as possible. I think certain characters were introduced in a way where they kind of walked on screen and then they became part of the Alliance. I felt like there could have been more development for why they chose to follow one another. I felt like they could have been more compelling because you would have cared about them down the line. I'm not going to spoil why, but I think you guys can take a wild guess what happens to them. There's also a pilot named Bodhi, played by Riz Ahmed, who I enjoyed in Nightcrawler. In this movie, though, I wasn't really too big on his character. He really was just known as the pilot, and not much else, unfortunately. I felt like there could have been more development for his character. I think this is the most competent movie directed by Gareth Edwards so far, because his previous movie was Godzilla, and whilst I did enjoy that movie, I will admit that his action scenes with Godzilla really weren't that compelling, and he would always hide the action. He would never show it. In this movie, he shows all the action. You see everything so clearly, and this is of course enhanced with gorgeous cinematography. Every single planet has its own specific defined cinematography. Now, I have not watched a single review yet. I just didn't want to before I saw the film, but what I've heard a lot of people complaining about is Darth Vader and his screen time. I love Darth Vader. I really do. He is possibly my favorite villain of all time. I did not have a single problem with the amount of screen time he had in this movie. You want to know why? Because he's not a main character in this film. This is not a movie about Darth Vader. This is not about him going after the rebels. That's the original Star Wars. And I like the fact that they didn't make him a central villain, because I would say in my mind, oh, here we go. Darth Vader is once again the central villain. He's a badass. I love him as he is. But in Rogue One, I felt like he wasn't really needed that much. And also, remember this. In the original Star Wars, he was only in the movie for 13 minutes. In this movie, he's in the movie, I think, for about 7 minutes. And through those 7 minutes, he was awesome. I loved every minute of screen time he had, especially at the end, which I don't want to spoil. But oh man, if you are a Star Wars fan, you are gonna love the ending to this movie. So in the end, guys, I absolutely loved Rogue One. In my opinion, I do think this is the best movie of 2016, despite the fact that it does have a few flaws. I just felt so good watching this movie. When I left the theater, I felt a true sense of fulfillment. Not like my Magnificent Seven viewing. I really felt fulfilled after seeing another great Star Wars movie. In my opinion, it's the best film in the franchise since Return of the Jedi. I like this movie a lot more than Force Awakens. I loved it, and I'm going to give this film an A. Despite the fact that Grand Moff Tarkin CGI really does look horrible, and there is a little bit of a pacing issue throughout the first act, once it builds up to an incredible conclusion, I was just already blown away. I really love this movie, guys. I truly, deeply loved it. Did you see what I did there? This is definitely going to be, without a doubt, a first day Blu-ray pickup. I have no doubt I'm going to be picking this up on its first Blu-ray day. But of course, I'm going to go back and rewatch this film because I loved it. I cannot wait to explore it again. So, for those of you who saw Rogue One, if you liked it, disliked it, if you're somewhere in the middle, you have mixed reactions, let me know down in the comment section below. I would love to hear all of your thoughts. Hopefully start an awesome discussion. In a few days, I will be bringing you guys an in-depth spoiler review. That's going to be a really long one because I have a ton of things that I cannot wait to talk about in spoiler fashion. I'm excited to bring you guys that review so much. Guys, I cannot thank you enough for watching all my videos. Really, it really warms my heart. You guys are great. Thank you so much as always for watching, and stay tuned.